I want to ask a question to you people first, okay? Have you ever made a decision that you felt was completely logical, well planned out, ekdam right, but at the end, the execution completely went bust? It failed, or like it didn't go the way that you planned. So, in investment, career, and life, we often get all of these paths right. That smart people would make some well-reasoned decisions that will not end up giving us the outcomes that we wanted. So, our next speaker is going to talk about that. Our next speaker, she works with successful professional and business at moments in their life that matters the most. Career transitions, retirement, family decisions, and everything in between. She is a certified financial planner, co-founder of House of Alpha Investment Advisors, and the author of Do You Have Enough? A question that starts not with your net worth, but with what you actually want your money to do for your life. She's joining us to explore why even smart, well-reasoned financial decisions sometimes lead to outcomes that we don't expect. Conversation with her, and in conversation with her is Anil Ghelani, one of the most ardent supporters of our community, head of passive investments at DSP Mutual Funds, and previously CEO and CIO at DSP BlackRock Pension Fund Managers. Please welcome Bhuvanaa Shreeram and Anil Ghelani for the last fireside chat of the day.
Okay, good afternoon, friends. It's great to be here today at the next edition of MML, which in my view and what we understood earlier from the discussion is just the beginning and we have lots more to come. The next edition is going to be in some other city, what we just spoke about, and Mumbai is going to happen again. So I hope all of you are around to block your calendars for the next session as well. But quickly to get started with this session today and just after lunch. So how was the lunch, everybody? Good fun? Okay. And how was the menu at the lunch table, basically, you know? And connecting that, and before we kickstart and before people feel, oh, well, lunch is heavy sometimes, I feel sleepy. So the often asked question is that, oh, did you have enough? So connecting the dots of that, which is our day-to-day practical aspect, connecting the dots between how structurally, it was a very classic example today. Many of us took a break, we were still doing our networking discussions and we went for the lunch, right? So one approach is that, okay, you pick up a plate and go around the buffet quickly and try to pick up what comes your way. Second approach is that, no, I don't want to pick up the plate yet. Bhuvanaa, madam, let's just go and take a round around what all the food is available. Oh, do they have a dessert counter? Will there be some snack, like a sweet thing, like for somebody like me who's a Gujarati, we need a sweet in the lunch as well, right? So let's first take a round and then start carefully curating our lunch plate. These are the two basic things that one could think about. And friends, very similarly, that is something which always happens even in investing. When you're planning for your long term, when you're planning for your certain life goals, always these type of things come up. But at that point of time, very important to connect the dots between what we are discussing about, is there enough or do you have enough, with the session before lunch, what Namrata mentioned, how to think about certain concepts and certain emotions, you know. So with that background, I just wanted to quickly dive into this wonderful book that we just unveiled, and a very, very unique way of depicting the content in the cover page, and it's very interesting and very intriguing. So Bhuvanaa ma'am, just coming back to this particular book and the logic behind how you thought of this in your vast experience of more than 2 decades dealing with professionals, with large families, with HNIs in terms of navigating their thought and their mindset about investing. Can someone make the right financial decision but still get a not so good outcome or a bad outcome? You know, how do you think about that, and how have you tried to capture that in your book, basically?
So Thank you for inviting me, Chintan, and very nice to see this audience here, young. On a Sunday, they're coming here to network and learn, so it's really heartening, and thanks for that amazing question, Anil. Yes, can you make a good decision and can it turn out badly? We all have examples, I'm sure. Have you all thought at the time of making a decision, this is a fantastic decision, I've thought this through, and has it turned out badly for you? Yeah, it has. So it has.
It has. It definitely would
Yeah.
be.
So, but I'll just share a little story here. We're talking to one of my clients, right? So he works for Microsoft, and he joined Microsoft in 2008. And around 2012, if you all have have been following that stock or that company, you would realize by 2012-13, the company had become it become one giant company which is just into licensing and, not so exciting place to say. And a lot of his friends left. They went and joined Intel and other companies and all. And he somehow chose to stick around. And then, of course, we know Satya Nadella came, and then the company, they had a completely different makeover, and the stock markets did appreciate the work that Microsoft did, and ESOPs became very, very valuable for him. So we were talking to him, and he was saying, looking back, looks like it turned out to be a good decision. But at that point in time, in 2012, when I made that decision, it didn't seem like a great decision, right? When people left, I thought they were making smarter decisions. So we all seem to think financial decisions or any decision for that matter based on the outcome. Say when you're making that decision, you don't really know whether this is going to be turning out well or not, right? Sometimes life appreciates patience. Sometimes it, gives you a hand when you are resilient. Sometimes just the timing. Sometimes because you're taking risk, life pays off for you. You don't know what really will work. There is an element of luck. So while we do think through decisions, it's very important. The outcome, of course, is a function of many other things, which I think Morgan Housel also talks about the role that luck plays in your financial life, right? So yes, people can make decisions which don't turn out well.
Oh, absolutely right. And I genuinely believe that luck does play a big role,
Yeah.
whether we want to admit it or not, basically.
Yes.
Carrying further from the lunch example, very genuine and very frank thing. I usually avoid having lunch outside, very often. Most of us, nobody likes five-star food or banquet food. And so I was like, and I prefer Jain food,
Okay.
So now I didn't want to say, "Arey yaar, please make sure there is some Jain food." And I said, let me just try my luck, basically. Like you said, sometimes
Okay.
I was lucky. So I just went there. I thought I'll have some small salad and all. And somebody was picking up some Jain food. I said, "Haan, sir, Jain food hai wo side."
Good
just,
for you.
Just grew lucky. It was
Good
not
for you.
planned. It was not structured. But at the same time, very important to have certain contours of that plan in place.
Yes.
So that you can become lucky at the right
Yes.
time, basically.
They also say fortune favors the brave, right? So,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, carrying on further from that, Bhuvanaa, how do you think of some of your clients, like you described some of them as very high profile professionals or
Yeah.
business owners or families who are into generational wealth and, in some way very intelligent people, but do you see them making some repeated mistakes, basically, that, okay, how the hell could you, as such a smart and intelligent person, you are so good at your business or your job, how could you make this basic mistake? Do you come across that ever, or does your book cover that in some way?
No, the book, I'm not sure the book covers, but you're right in saying intelligent people, do they make mistakes? I think they just make as many mistakes as anybody else. Just that they can justify it better because they are intelligent, they can say better stories, right, and justify those decisions. But I think intelligent, not intelligent, money outcomes are a function more of behavior than of math, right? An intelligent person does not necessarily behave well, right? They would probably do the math better. Maybe they'd understand concepts better, but behavior is another thing altogether. And money outcomes are a function of good behavior. So there are many, many ways that we've seen my clients also get stuck with what we call biases, right? Like the
Absolutely.
anchoring bias or the confirmation bias. I look for data that confirms my preconceived ideas right? So those things are very common amongst everyone, and nobody is immune to. Your intelligence level does not determine whether you'll turn out well with money. I mean, we've seen your own, you would have the data probably of investments done by people in mutual funds, don't even look at it, don't bother about it, they make multi-millions, while people who are constantly overthinking their strategies aren't doing so well as well, right? So intelligence has very little to, little role to play in how rich you would end up being, is something that we cover in the book very upar say, but it's a very good question that you're asking.
No, and very nice how you mentioned that sometimes, even if we are making some mistakes, but we are finding some or the other bias or confirmation bias to help us accept that mistake as, oh, well, that's a part of the way in which we should look at things. And just during the lunch break, I was chatting with some friends and they were discussing about how should we learn and how to recognize such biases. And I remember this term called the grey rhino, and there's a very nice book written by the author Michelle Wooker, which became popular after the concept of black swans, basically. You know, so black swans are very unusual. Swans are always white, so how unusual would it be to find a black swan? But rhinos are always grey, and hence the grey rhino concept tries to help us identify such biases, such mistakes, which structurally, which we know, which we can avoid. That, okay, there is a grey rhino charging towards us, not like a very random white swan, but very well established event which could go wrong, and how we can avoid such mistakes with our money as well. So wonderful, and thanks for bringing that up, Bhuvanaa. Any other examples where you feel people optimize for money, but later regret the trade-off? You know, maybe some decisions are taken thinking that, oh, this will help me make more money, and I try to trade off for something. It could be anything, basically, you know. But
yeah, so I mean, while we were talking of very successful, intelligent people, right? So something that I've seen quite often is how senior executives, even CEOs, MDs of companies, they get stock, their stock options are like so dear to them. Like 80% of their total wealth is lying in that one company. That company is where the wealth is held. That company is what is giving them the salaries as well. So how much concentration risk will you take in your portfolio? Yeah, I know I have concentration risk. But you know what? I know this company very well. I know who runs it. I know, the order book. I'm very familiar with what's happening there. I think I should hold on to it. Right? Familiarity gives you an illusion of control, right? You might know something, doesn't mean you control the outcomes.
Yeah.
So, of course, you're trying to trade off. We all know this, right? When you're trying to take a job, you know it's high demanding job. It will, have a demand on your time, on your health. But we usually don't see both sides of the coin at the same time. You only see one side. Oh, yeah, I'm getting a good pay here. I'm getting a good offer here. You take it. But what it will turn out to be, what the trade-off will be, is something that will pan out for you much, much later, which is not visible. You'll have to make an effort to turn the coin around to see, or at least ask around to understand, right? So trying to optimize only for money, while we say, money is a tool that helps you live the best life possible, the life comes first. The money is only an aid. It supports the process of living a good life. So if your money is coming at the cost of the life that you define, a successful life the way you define it, then it's a fairly expensive trade-off to make.
great point. And I think very important to recognize that sometimes if that trade-off maybe happens to be some relationships or some friendships, or worst trade-off ever would be your health, basically. You know,
Yep.
I mean, all of us keep saying it's a very cliche dialogue that health is the real wealth and blah blah. But if you don't put it to use on a day-to-day basis, and you don't prioritize your fitness or your wellness, whether physical wellness or emotional or mental wellness, like how Namrata madam discussed before the lunch. I'm just saying as one example, then that trade-off will never be enough.
Yeah, will never
no
be
matter
enough.
how much of money you accumulate in your
Like
bank
they say,
accounts.
a healthy man has 100 problems, but an unhealthy man has only one problem.
Only one problem. Superb. That's great. Wonderful. Yeah. So, connecting that with one more very interesting thing, like which I often think of, that very often, people feel very insecure or very uncertain about their future, and those people could actually be very successful in terms of their career or their planning or their finances, but often they don't have the comfort that okay, I'm secure, and they often still feel that no, I need to, and that sometimes could be stemming from greed, sometimes it could be stemming from anything, not necessarily always the insecurity. But do you feel, I mean, have you seen such people who are financially very confident, very secure, but very successful, but not very secure, you know?
So
And what could one do if we are thinking of that way, and some cheat sheet or something which can help us to navigate better in that? You know?
yeah. So I'm reminded of my son. He was a tennis player. When he was younger, he would play competitive tennis. And he would win talent series, championship series and all, and he'll move up to the national series, and he'll go to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and lose. And then people who win the national series will go up to nationals, and they will go to quarterfinals, semifinals, and they'll lose. And then those who win the nationals will go to the ITF circuit, and from there they will win quarterfinals, semifinals, and lose. What will be interesting is that the kids at every level will be unhappy. Right? At every level, because there is always something more to do. Like Rafa Nadal and Roger Federer are also unhappy because they've not beaten each other's record, and then there is one Djokovic, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
you're always comparing. Comparison always happens with what you perceive to be a level above you. Nobody ever says, "Oh, I'm better off than 95% of people around here." Does anybody say that? If you compared both ways, then you'd probably be a lot more secure in your skin. But we don't, right? I mean, that is, it is how it is. So that perspective of saying, you know what, when I won a talent series or when I won a championship series, I already beat 21 other people, you know, and then got
Yeah.
here. That's something that we don't acknowledge. So I mean, success is as you define it, but comfort or what you say, insecurity is something that you assimilate, or what she was saying, right? The mindset around security. Yeah.
So similar thing, like, you know, okay, how come my lunch plate looks so boring and your lunch plate looks so fancy with so many colorful
That's
dishes?
because
You
you're
know,
doing
that's the
Jain.
comparison bias. No. I was just connecting the example of the comparison bias, and like, or in the other way, like how there's, you know, the iski gaadi meri gaadi se lambi kaise hai, or iska shirt mere shirt se white kyun hai, or like whatever, like the Tide advertisement or whatever it could be, like, you know. So sometimes just that comparison. Wrong way of comparing, or a way in which you see a healthy comparison, and competitiveness is important. Like you said,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was playing
Ambition is very
competitive
important.
and competitive tennis, so you have to be competitive. But comparison may be not the good thing. That's what I feel. You know? So
Compare both ways. Try and compare above you also, and also understand how many people you're better off, you know,
absolutely.
against.
And,
Yeah.
and do you see that wrong comparison distorting good financial decision making? You know, whether it's in personal finance, or many of us are traders, fund managers, analysts. In some of these ways, do you think that distorts?
Of course, all the time, right? I mean, comparison primarily because you're motivated by a validation that you need from somebody else. You're not motivated by what you want, right? So it is likely to result in something not so very good.
Absolutely. So, aligning back to the topic, and like keeping on with the food and beverages thing, like, okay, now for me, when I'm in my office, you know, at about 3 o'clock times, just before market close, is the most hectic time for me. So there is a set rule that a very nice hot cup of chai comes on my table, basically. You know?
Yes.
So, of course, it's not going to happen here that this table
No?
won't get it. But yeah, okay, I have had some good food, so I'm happy. So connecting that with what does enough actually mean in practical life? You know, that's the theme of the book and the theme of what you have articulated in such a nice way and a simple day-to-day practical aspect. So how should we come up with that thing that, you know, what does enough actually mean? Of course, I'm giving a very crude example, as whatever came to mind at the top of mind, maybe because I'm used to the tea, but not for the tea, but connecting it with the world of investing. How would you think of it, you know?
So I've been thinking about this word enough quite a bit after I wrote this book, doing a lot of trying to understand what is this enough. right? How do we use it in normal parlance when we say enough? We say enough is enough. What does that mean? Enough is what? It's a decision, right? Enough is a decision. It's not a number. It's not a mindset. It's a decision. You decide this is enough, this is enough. Because there are clients who come and say, do I have enough? Can I retire? Is this enough? Am I doing the right thing, right? So it's a very common conversation that we have. And my question is this life enough for you? Is this kind of lifestyle enough for you? If it is enough for you, then you have enough. If this is not enough for you, then it's not enough. So it's just as, very simple as that. So enough is a decision that you make.
Very interesting.
And of course, it gets pushed and pulled and moving milestones and all that. But at some point, you will, make that thing. There is always a trade-off. When I'm going after something, I'm giving up something. The moment the pain of what I'm giving up is more than what I will get when I get the one that I'm going after, you will say it's enough. Okay, so for you to first understand whatever you're going after and what is it that you're trading off.
Very interesting. And on that note, just to wind up with the last point, and then we'll quickly move up to the audience. I think, friends, it's a very interesting way to think of life in general, not just finances, but for anything that how much does enough actually mean? Are we looking to quickly rush to the networking break so that I can leave? Is today's learning and networking enough? And do I want to go back home feeling happy about it? Or is my quest for knowledge enhancement and networking still on, that I want to be here till a longer time? So that's something which we always need to keep in mind, that do you have enough, whether it's in terms of monetary aspects, like how Bhuvanaa mentioned in her book, or it could be linked to anybody, and anything. I know many of the friends here are young friends in their quest for knowledge enhancement and study in the college. Is it enough? Oh, I am doing this MBA from such college. I have done my UG from this. I want to do now FRM. I have already completed this. I want to do CFA. I want to do. What will be enough to give you a good grounding to move ahead? Something like that. Very unique, very interesting concept. Great chat. Any closing thing from your side as you wind up, that if the audience has to take back one small thing before they read the precursor of your book? By the way, her book is going to be out and anybody can purchase it in the next week or two. And we are fortunate to have her unveil this at the National Stock Exchange at MMML 6.
Yes.
But any last thing, one thing if you would want to leave the audience with, that they can carry it away?
Yes. So the topic of today's discussion has been decisions. And I've been thinking of decisions quite deeply. How do you know a decision is a good decision? What makes a decision a quality decision, right? So, of course, we spoke about if the outcome turns out to be good, then it's a good decision. But you don't know. There are many things that can go wrong along the way. But still, when you make the decision, you still have to be sure it's a good decision. So there are two parts to this. One is on the left-hand side, you have a very clear, vivid clarity on what you want in your life. In your career, what do you want to be proud about? For your children, what is it that you want? How do you want to be received by people around you? This clarity of what you want remains the absolute north for you. It stays on one side. And then there are multiple decisions you're making along the way, right? Every day you're making small decisions. Your life itself is a function of all these little decisions only. So when you make these decisions, most of us make the decision based on immediate database available, right? Oh, this product is available, let me make this. This tip came to me today, so let me make this decision, right? So you make decisions based on immediate available information. If we can think long term, when I make this decision, what will the output be, or what will the impact be 3 months from now, 3 years from now? If I can foresee, that is what they say also, that the farther into the future you can think, the richer you become.
Superb, yeah.
Right? Yes. So if you look at multimillionaires, they would think this generation, next generation, third generation.
7 generations.
Yeah, I know. But the person on the road, the beggar on the road is only worried about dinner tonight. Most of us are thinking, how do we get past this month? Or maximum we'll say this year, which holiday to go, right? So if we can think farther into the future, that's when your quality of decisions is likely to get better. So on one side, you know what you want. And on the other side, every decision you make, you're able to foresee the impact of that decision in the long term. And this long-term vision, does it match with your own, what you want in your life? That is when you know that you've made a quality decision. When you can get that as close as possible. Your desire for your life and the outcome of your decisions, when they can get as close as
Superb.
possible,
Yeah.
you've made a good quality decision.
Super. That's amazing. Poona, I met you for the first time today, but I don't think I'll be able to get enough out of this discussion, but let's take it offline during the tea break, friends. Thank you very much for being such a wonderful and patient audience. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions, and I'm getting a sign from Siddhi that let's take the questions during the tea break. And I'm sure that we'll get a lot of chance to pick her brains around the tea break. Thank you
When the
very
book
much.
is out, please do buy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really.